Hi, welcome to the episode of learning how to self-regulate with critical thinking. So, as we navigate through these wild times during this pivotal point of this paradigm shift, we are going to be experiencing many different phases of chaos. So, sometimes, even in our own lives, we go through periods of storms, chaos, in order for transformation to unfold and for change to actually be able to happen. So, one of the most challenging elements for us to go through these chaos and stormy times is to actually stay objective. And that's what critical thinking is. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about what is critical thinking and some steps in order to train ourselves to be actually able to do it. Critical thinking is basically being able to self regulate, self discipline by self-evaluating and by being able to look at a situation objectively. The challenge with this is often when there's things playing out that we don't understand, that we don't agree with, that we don't have control over, we have emotional responses, which are valid, and we want to honor those emotional responses, absolutely. We just want to learn how to not necessarily keep responding from those emotional places. And when we're emotionally responding, we're not generally coming from a place that's neutral or objective. Why is that important? It's important because critical thinking offers us the ability to be able to be open or to access new solutions. And when we have a different consciousness from where a problem originated or the consciousness of something that's playing out, when we come at it from a different perspective or a different consciousness, a different vibration, that's when we actually really can find solutions to problems or to challenges. So critical thinking allows us to be open to that. And additionally, it helps us to really be in our sovereignty. When we are able to think for ourselves, we are able to access our sovereignty. We are less influenced by whatever's going on, the energies. We also, as things get more chaotic or are chaotic, especially if we're seeing chaos on the world stage, there's more intense thought forms. So we're more impacted and we're more affected. So sometimes being able to pull back, pause, and be able to question what's actually happening. So that's one of the steps, really. We want to analyze. Step number one is analyze. Step number two, we want to be able to observe what's happening through interpretation, questioning. Am what I'm hearing and seeing, do I have all of the facts? Are the facts of what I'm seeing, are these sources truly reliable? Is this the truth? Is this the whole truth? Because oftentimes we're not seeing things clearly, or we're not seeing things in a wider, more comprehensive context. So critical thinking asks us to be able to step back so that we can either start to look at things from different perspectives, or we have the ability to pause, observe, and be curious as things start to unfold that we may not be able to see fully yet how or why things are unfolding the way they are. So analyze, interpretation. Then we want to self-evaluate. How is this affecting me? And what is my response about this? And what do I want to do about that first and foremost? So this is where potentially the most challenging element for us is, because this is where we want to process our emotions. We want to process what's actually happening for us. Because if we're responding back to a situation from our emotional response, such as anger, such as fear, fury, whatever it is, it doesn't mean, again, that emotion is not valid. It's that we want to process that. We want to sit with it. We want to breathe into it. We want to flush it out and move it out so that we can get into this place of self-regulation, which is then being able to be neutral. Neutral means, it does not mean I don't care. It doesn't mean that I'm being indifferent. It means I'm able to start to see things from different perspectives. I'm able to question myself, question my own response, question my own beliefs, question what I'm hearing, question what I'm seeing. So not just taking something that is coming at me potentially as absolute truth or full information, full disclosure. It's being able to say, how is this affecting me? And most importantly, how do I feel about it? So self-regulation is potentially, when we can get to that point, is the most powerful thing we can do, because we can start to see things from different perspectives and we can start to tune into our own inner guidance, our own inner resonance. So asking, does this resonate with me? Does this feel in alignment to me, to my values, to my beliefs, to my truth? Does this not resonate with me. We don't necessarily need to know the why it does or doesn't. The invitation for us is to just be aware. Is this actually resonating or not resonating? Or is this fear? Or is this even mine? Is this something that's coming in from, again, the collective or the group think? And because everybody else believes this or thinks this, is this actually of resonance for me at this current time? Absolutely beautiful process for us to learn how to allow ourselves to go through a process that's very inquisitive, that's very questioning, because that's where we really can come back and connect to our true soul self. And that soul self is where it's going to guide us to our own personal unique blueprint. And this is where we really can activate our own gifts and abilities and input to start to contribute to making really amazing positive changes, whether it's a situation we're dealing with personally or whether it's a situation that we're seeing play out on the world stage. Again, one of the most challenging potential things around coming into and aligning to critical thinking is when we don't have control over things. That when we don't have control over something, that can trigger us even more because it can create helplessness. The perception is it takes us out of our freedom, out of our sovereignty. So this is, an invitation for us, first and foremost, if we're feeling that, coming back to questioning first, okay, how am I feeling about this? And what do I have control over? I have control over how I want to respond to this. So how do we do that? One of the most empowering things that we can do to start to learn to become objective is to take a minute to pause. And that can literally mean I'm going to count to 10. So I'm having a response, or I just saw something or heard something, and I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to count to 10, or I'm going to count to 100, depending on how intense our response is. We can, again, tune in. How am I feeling about this? Where am I feeling this in my body? And then moving it, and then taking a step back. Sometimes that's taking a step completely back, taking a couple days, maybe even taking a couple weeks, or just even taking a couple minutes, depending. So it's giving ourselves that space, though, and training ourselves to be able to take that pause and then be able to approach it from a different perspective, potentially. When we're really triggered or having a really hard time seeing the bigger picture, we can just simply ask, Spirit, help me to see this from a different perspective. Help me to see different angles, or help me to be calm and patient while different elements of whatever is playing out unfolds, whether, again, that's in our own personal life, personal transformation, or whether we're seeing that, in our neighborhood, in our country, or on the collective world stage. So when we become neutral, we are able to be then very aware of all the different perspectives. And from that place, we can tune back into what truly resonates within our own self. And from that place, that's when we can choose our response. And again, it's our choosing of how do we want to respond. And that's, again, where we're going to feel most empowered, especially if we don't have control over what's happening on the outer. So we can control how we want to respond, how we want to show up, and how we want to contribute. So keeping in mind our solutions cannot come from the same consciousness or the same place that the problems existed or were created in. And critical thinking during these times is really what allows us to be the eye of the storm. So that means that things are going to be playing out. We're going to be in chaos for a little bit this year, maybe even to next year. So it's important for us to learn how to have the resilience and the perseverance while these changes take place. Chaos is often the prelude to a new consciousness of peace, or a new consciousness of harmony, or a renaissance period. So this is potentially, the kind of final chaos phase that we're going through during this paradigm shift. But it could also be, in a lot of ways, the most intense. A lot of our beliefs are going to be challenged, rattled. We're going to, again, be invited to really start to see things, open our minds potentially in ways we haven't before. And really being able, as we come into unity consciousness, to be able to come back and ask, how can I honor my own truth and my own values and my own resonance, and yet still give freedom, space, and honor to somebody else while they're going through their process, or while they're having, and coming from their own perspectives and their own values, not having judgments about it. So learning how to be really regulated, it's a win-win, because it brings us back into a place where we can just breathe. We can be a lot more calm. We can, again, just still enjoy life or enjoy our day as these, things come about that potentially for some can be extremely terrifying and challenging, as it challenges belief systems or the foundations from which we've created our identity or our security on. So as these next kind of phases of this paradigm shift unfold, one of our most powerful things is to keep coming back to, how can I see this from a different perspective, and how do I want to pause and then choose to respond. And sometimes we may not want to respond until we can come to a place of neutrality. So what do I, question we can ask, what do I need to do to help me to come back into that neutrality, help me to come back so that I can respond from a place that feels steady, that feels grounded, where I'm clear, and then I can have more clarity to how I want to direct my energy, my thoughts, and my responses. So wishing you a very beautiful, self-regulated passage through this very chaotic time. Namaste.